I express our sincere appreciation to the co-chairs for convening this meeting on the question of the veto. India fully aligns with the statements delivered by the PR of St. Lucia on behalf of L69 and the PR of Brazil on behalf of G4. In addition, I would like to make the following points in my national capacity. First, there are two fundamental aspects that result in an imbalanced structure and lack of legitimacy and non-representativeness of the UN Security Council. These are the membership and veto. There is broad agreement on the dire need to reform the UN Security Council. It is evident that a structure designed more than 80 years ago does not meet the requirements of the current geopolitical realities. We have earlier discussed extensively on both issues. A discussion on the veto is central to the IGN. Second, the sole reform of the Council in the 60s, which expanded only the non-permanent category, led to an increase in the relative power of veto wielders. In comparative terms, while the original ratio of permanent members with veto to non-permanent members was 5:6, it was amended to 5:10 thereafter, to the relative advantage of veto wielders. Any reform that is not accompanied by an expansion in the permanent category with veto would deteriorate this ratio further and thereby perpetuate the existing imbalance and inequities. Therefore, expanding the permanent category with veto is critical to real reform of the Security Council. Third, consideration of a new category under the framework of UNSC reform with or without veto would complicate an already existing discussion that involves wide-ranging views. It's important to limit the scope of reforms to the existing framework in order to streamline and fast-track the path to reforms. In this context, India reiterates that our views are aligned with the African model. New permanent members must also be given the veto as long as veto exists. Fourth, there have been calls for restraining the veto. Resolution 76/262 was adopted in 2022 with the aim of convening a formal meeting of the General Assembly within 10 days from exercising a veto to hold a debate on the same. However, this has not been an effective deterrent. Since the adoption of the resolution, 24 vetoes were cast on 20 draft resolutions. In fact, the 7 draft resolutions that were vetoed in 2024 was the highest since 1986. The UN membership has also witnessed the restraint of 2 permanent members who have not cast a veto for over 3.5 decades. Permanent members exercise veto many a time on the basis of their own national considerations. No limits can be effectively considered for imposition unless there are enabling provisions in the UN Charter, which paradoxically need a charter amendment and hence again subject to a veto. Fifth, India would like to highlight an important concept that deserves attention of member states. This is the effective veto every Security Council member, elected and non-elected, enjoys on products and outcomes such as the PRST, the press statement, sanctions committees, etc. There have been instances in the past where elected members have created hurdles by exercising effective veto on Council products to serve their narrow vested interests. Finally, veto has been a major topic of discussion both within and beyond the IGN. However, this does not impart this cluster precedence over the others. Reform of the Security Council must be undertaken in a comprehensive manner because a piecemeal approach that focuses on one cluster over another is bound to fail. Well laid out timelines, concrete milestones, and text-based negotiations are key ingredients to the success of such a comprehensive approach. In closing, India emphasizes that we will continue to remain fully engaged with the co-chairs and the member states towards achieving real reform of the UN Security Council. We will support all genuine efforts that are aimed at delivering meaningful and lasting outcomes. I thank you, co-chairs.